Hi, in this section of the Geometry Tutor, we're going to talk about complementary, supplementary, and vertical angles. So I split this section of the course dealing with angles into a few different parts to kind of lead us into it. Up till now, we've just talked about the concept of an angle. It's just the measure between two rays like this, how open those two rays are. And we've talked about the acute angles, which are the narrow angles, less than 90, the right angles, which are the 90-degree angles, and the obtuse angles, which are greater than 90, and the straight angles, which are just all the way across 180 degrees like that. Okay, that's all we've talked about as far as classifying angles. Now we're going to talk about what we're going to call complementary and supplementary angles, which are just terms used to describe how two angles relate to each other. Sounds complicated, it's super easy. Let's talk about it. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, as a statement of fact, okay, a definition, that two angles, and this is exactly how you'll see it written in the textbook, so I'm writing down with these abbreviations. Two angles are complementary. Okay, and I'm going to underline that because that's the term that we're trying to learn here. Two angles are complementary if they add up to 90 degrees. That's all it means. So angle A and angle B. Angle A is 45 degrees. Angle B is 45 degrees. A plus B, 45 plus 45 equals 90 degrees. If they add up to exactly 90 degrees, exactly, not 91, not 97, not 84, but if they add up to exactly 90 degrees, then we say that they are complementary angles. You could say they complement each other. I don't know why they picked these terms. They're kind of weird to me too, but it's just a term. You have to learn it and then you'll be able to do your problems, okay? So let's look at this. Let's say you have a right angle, okay? Let's say you have a right angle, and this right angle, let's see here, how are we going to do this? This is a right angle, so I'm going to draw my little symbol down here in the corner. That means 90 degrees, okay? That means this is 90 degrees like this, okay? Now let's split this angle up, okay, into two smaller angles, and I'm going to use a different color here, like this, okay? So now you have angle A, right, between this ray and this ray, okay? And you also have another angle, like this, from this middle ray to this bottom ray, and we're going to say that that angle is B, okay? If A plus B is equal to 90 degrees, then we say that A and B are complementary. Or we also say that they are complements of each other, okay? A and B are complementary if they add to 90 degrees. So whatever this number is, plus whatever this number is in degrees, if they add up to exactly 90, we say they are complementary, okay? So let's look at some more examples here, okay? Let's say we have, again, we have a 90-degree right angle. Okay, we're going to have a point A here. The vertex is B. And this other ray over here is D. Okay? And we're going to use some color to split this up. And this is a 90-degree angle because it's a right angle. And we split this 90-degree angle up. We just fracture it here with another ray in the middle. Okay? And we say this is point C right here. Okay? And let's just say that on your test or on your homework, there's a picture. It looks just like this. And this angle is given to you at 10 degrees, okay? And this angle between this ray and this ray is given to you at 80 degrees, okay? And the question is, are these two angles, ABC and CBD, this angle here and this angle here, are they complements of one each other? So, since angle ABC is equal to 10 degrees. And angle CBD is equal to 80 degrees. Okay? And because 80 plus 10 degrees is equal to 90 degrees, then we say that ABC and CBD are complements of one another. Complements. They are complements of one another. So really all you have to do to find out if two angles are complementary is you just find out what the angles are. You can get that by looking at the drawing or using some other information. Add them up. If they add up to 90, then they're complementary. Okay, now we're going to do another kind of problem. Very similar, but what we need to do is we need to find the complement of the angle below. Okay, so there's going to be a drawing in geometry. Almost every problem is going to have a drawing of some kind. Okay, there's a point A here. The vertex is point B. There's a point over here. We're going to call that point D. And there's some, some ray that goes right there. And that's point C. So we have everything labeled with points so we can reference the angles. And what's given to you in the drawing, and I'll use a different color to show this. What's given to you is that this is a right angle between this ray and this ray. This is 90 degrees. And what's also given to you is that this is 45 degrees. So one type of question that you will be given on a test is they give you a picture like this, and they'll say, what is the complement of 45 degrees? What angle complements 45 degrees? Or what angle is the complement of 45 degrees? All you have to do is find out what angle you have to add together to 45 to equal the 90-degree angle. Okay, so the way to just do that math-wise is you just say, okay, 90 degrees, right? Minus this 45 degrees. And if you do that by hand or in your calculator, you'll figure out that that's 45 degrees. Okay, so if I put an angle of 45 degrees here, 45 plus 45 gives me the 90. So 45 degrees is the complement of 45 degrees. So this is really the answer. It says, what is the complement? Find the complement of the angle below. Well, the complement of 45 degrees is 45 degrees. Okay, so let's do another few problems. What is the complement of 10 degrees? Somebody just tells you, what's the complement of the angle 10 degrees? The way you find that out is you say, okay, well, I'm just going to take 90 degrees, subtract the 10 degrees from it, and so the answer is 80 degrees. 80 degrees is the complement of 10 degrees, okay? Because 10 plus 80 gives me my 90, okay? What is the complement of 60 degrees? You find that the same way. You take the 90 degrees, subtract the 60 degrees off. What are you left with? It's 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is the complement of 60 degrees because if you add them up, it gives you 90. And then just one last one. What is the complement of 89 degrees? I think you could probably do this in your head. 90 degrees minus 89 degrees is just going to be 1 degree. So you would say in words, 89 degrees is the complement of 1 degree, or 1 degree is the complement of 89 degrees, because if you add them up, you get your 90 degrees. Okay, you get your 90 degrees. And two angles are complementary if they add up to 90 degrees. Okay, now we've talked about complementary angles. Two angles, you add them up, give you 90 degrees. Now we're going to talk about supplementary angles, which are just two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So it's just another definition, another term, okay, that we just have to learn. Supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are two angles that add to equal 180 degrees. That's all it is. So it's the same exact problem as before. Instead of adding to 90 degrees, they have to add to 180 degrees, okay? So how would you draw this as a picture? Well, here's a straight angle here, okay? We're going to call it angle A, vertex at B, although vertex in this case is really not as important because it's flattened out. So this is straight angle ABD, and we're going to draw a ray off like this just to kind of split it up, and this will be point C. So clearly we have angle ABC and angle CBD. So we say angle ABC is supplementary to angle CBD. And the reason is because we know this is 180 degrees. Anytime you have a straight angle, which is just an angle that goes out like this, you've gone half a circle, that's 180 degrees. So by definition, this is 180 degrees. So if this angle is right here, and you add this angle to it, you're always going to get 180 degrees. So those two things we say are supplementary because angle ABC plus angle CBD is equal to 180 degrees. That's all we're saying. Angle ABC plus, which is this one right here, ABC plus angle CBD gives me 180. That's all we're saying here. So if you wanted to do some problems, okay, if you wanted to do some problems, we would have something like this. Again, let's draw a straight angle like this. And let's say you have A, B, and let's say you had D, okay? And let's say you split it this way, like that, okay? Put point C up here. And let's say given to you in the problem, let me draw this in a different color so that you can see it a little bit better. In the problem, you were given that this was 80 degrees, and it's given to you in the drawing, okay? And then this angle here was 100 degrees, okay? Then you would know just by looking at it, because 100 degrees plus 80 degrees gives me 180 degrees, that these two angles right here are supplementary to one another, okay? So we say since 100 plus 80 is equal to 180, then we say angle ABC, and this is just my little symbol for and, angle CBD are supplementary. And a lot of times you see supplementary just written by SUPP like that. They're supplementary angles. So, we've drawn some drawings here, show you a straight angle and kind of cutting it up and showing you graphically that they add up to 180, but you don't have to have two angles that are drawn like this next to each other. Supplementary and complementary are just terms that mean, it doesn't matter how they're drawn. If you have an angle that's 10 degrees and an angle that's, 170 degrees, then those two angles are supplementary to one another because when you add them up, they equal 180. The drawing here just helps to kind of draw it out graphically and show you what it is. What if we had something like, here's a straight angle here with point A, point B, point D, and here we have point C, and this is a right angle. This is all given to you in the drawing, right? The question is, what is the supplement of the right angle below? I mean, the question on your paper might be, what is the supplement of this angle, this right angle, okay? Well, what is the supplement? Well, they have to add to 180 degrees. So if you take 180 degrees minus this 90 degrees right here, you're going to get, when you do this, 90 degrees. So the answer is 90 degrees. 90 degrees is the supplement to 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees as well, which you can also write as another right angle. So the supplement of 90 degrees is also 90 degrees. And that's just because they add up to 180. There's nothing magical here. We can also ask ourselves, even without a drawing, you can have, what would be the supplement of 1 degree? What is the supplement there? What is the supplement of 1 degree angle? And the way you find the answer is, well, you have to add up to 180 degrees to be supplementary. So you just take 180 minus 1, and you'll get 179 degrees. And that's the answer, because if you add 179 to 1, you get 180. So the angle 1 degree and the angle 179 are supplementary to one another. Okay, you can also have, what if you have 135 degrees? What's the supplement of that angle? Same thing, you take 180 and you subtract 135. And when you do that math, okay, you will get 45 degrees. So the angle 135 degrees and the angle 45 degrees are supplements of one another. And if you just wanted to check it on a drawing here and just see if it kind of makes sense, 45 degrees is about like this. And 135 degrees is roughly like that. You can use a protractor to figure that out. And so those add up to 180 degrees. But really all you need is the math here. And you can always check yourself. 45 plus 135 equals 180. So you know you have the right answer. What is the supplement of 10 degrees? Well, same thing. Take 180 degrees minus the 10 degrees, and you will get 170 degrees. That is the supplement of 10 degrees because you add them together and you get 180 degrees. And now we're going to talk about the topic of vertical angles. We've talked about the complementary angles, the supplementary angles, the angles that add up to 90 degrees or add up to 180 degrees. Now we're going to talk about vertical angles. And to be honest with you, vertical angles have one of the weirdest names in geometry. I don't even know why they really call it this, but we're going to make it simple for you. Vertical angles. I could write a whole lot of words here. Vertical angles are two angles, blah, 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 blah. But who cares about that? I want to show you what it means so that you'll sink in and you'll actually understand it. So I'm not going to draw a lot of words. I'm going to show you what vertical angles are. All you do is you take two lines, okay? There's a line, and then you take another line, and you just intersect it like this. This is called intersection here. You have two lines that cross, okay? Now, all you have to know, okay, and I'm going to label this angle, angle 1. This one's going to be number 2. This one's going to be number 3. This one's going to be number 4. So anytime you crisscross two lines, you always get 4 angles. Always, no matter how you cross them, okay? The angles that are opposite each other are called vertical angles. I guess they call it that because they're kind of opposite each other. So you can sort of think of them as opposite angles, vertical angles. So 1 and 3 are vertical, and 2 and 4 are vertical. So I'm going to write that down. Angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical. And angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical. Okay, so 1 is vertical with 3, 2 is vertical with 4. I'm not saying anything at all about 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. All I'm saying is that when you crisscross two lines, the ones that are opposite each other, these are vertical together and these are vertical together. Okay, that's all that's saying. So if you had a slightly different pair of lines, I mean these are kind of crisscrossed, kind of broad like that. I mean, but if you had something very, very gradually intersecting like this, you're always going to have 4 angles that form. You should convince yourself of that. No matter how you do it, you're always going to have 4 angles, okay? And all this is saying is that if you label these angles, okay, 1 and 3, these are going to be vertical. And angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical. Okay. Angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical. Angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical. That's all it's saying. The reason you define these terms this way is because in your problems and in the future part of geometry, they're going to talk about the vertical angles in the drawing. And they're going to say, look at these vertical angles. Let's do something with them. Let's solve a problem. And you're going to have to know what that means in order to actually make a forward step. So we're covering some basics now. Okay. Now what I want to do next is I want to erase this right here. I'm going to leave the rest of the stuff up on the board. Okay. And we're going to write down something that's actually pretty important. Okay. We're going to write down something called the vertical angle theorem. Okay. First of all, I should talk about what does the word theorem mean. You're going to see that all through geometry. Theorem this, theorem that, proof, stuff like this, okay? A theorem is just something mathematical that can be proved, okay? So you start, just like I told you before, you have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, okay? That's something that is told to you. That is a fact that really can't be proved any more than the sun is yellow. I mean, it's that way. That's something given to you. You can't really prove it other than to look at it, okay? So something that's a theorem is something in math that can be proved with the building blocks of math. For the most part, what you can really think about anytime you see something called a theorem in your textbook, it's something that is true. Just read it, the text underneath it, and read it with in your mind, just thinking to yourself, somebody somewhere has proven that this statement is true that I'm about to read. And you may not necessarily know how to prove it's true. You may not know all the math behind it to make sure that it's true. But whatever I write under here, if it's called a theorem, it is true. That's really all you have to know. Okay, so the vertical angle theorem, which just means the vertical angle thing which is true, right, is vertical angles are, and we're going to use a new word, congruent. Okay, so let me circle this. because this is an important theorem, okay? The word congruent is used all the time in geometry. It just means equals, okay? That's all it means. Congruent means equals. This is congruent to that. This angle is congruent to that angle. Just means they're equal. That's all it means. They have the same measure. So an angle this big right here and down here an angle this big, they're the same measure. They are congruent, okay? Vertical angles are congruent. Now think about that. What have we said is a vertical angle here? These two angles, opposite, so they're vertical. All it's saying is there's a theorem out there. Somebody figured it out. It's true that angle 1 and angle 3 are always equal. So if this is 45 degrees, this one's always 45 degrees. If this one's 10 degrees, like down here, it's about 10 degrees here, angle 3 is always 10 degrees. Also, these two are vertical angles, 2 and 4. This angle, number 2, is always going to be congruent or equal to number 4. So when you think about it, no matter how you crisscross two lines, you will always have some angles that are opposite of each other. You'll always have some angles that are opposite of each other, right? And they're always going to be congruent. They're always going to be equal to one another. That's all that's saying. That's actually very important. So it seems simple. It's a very short little theorem to remember. But if you kind of forget, I mean, all you have to do is draw some X's down. You can kind of remind yourself, even though you're always cautioned in your textbook, don't, this drawing is not to scale. This drawing is not to scale. Well, you can kind of learn some things from looking at some drawings printed in a textbook. If you see some crisscrosses and they look about equal, they probably are, okay? They probably are. And especially if they're opposite like this, that means they're vertical angles and they're congruent to one another. Okay, so like we said here, angle 1 is equal to angle 3, and angle 2 is equal to angle 4. We've said nothing about the relationship between 1 and 4. We haven't said anything about that as far as the vertical angle theorem. Okay, we're just saying that 1 and 3 are equal, 2 and 4 are equal. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to work on some practice problems here. And so what we're going to do to start with is I'm going to draw kind of a drawing here, and I'm going to draw some points here. We're going to use this drawing to answer some questions about vertical angles and complementary angles and so on. So this is the kind of thing you might see on a test or in a textbook or something like that. It's the kind of thing that you might see and you might say, wow, this is a complicated drawing. What do I do? So you just take it one step at a time. That's all you do. So let's, first of all, name two angles that are supplements. I'm just going to use supplements as SUPP of DOE, of angle DOE. Two angles that are supplement of DOE. So first, when you look at this complicated drawing, you find DOE. DOE. This is an angle here. Okay? That's an angle here. And what does supplement mean? Okay? Supplement means that it's an angle, and when you add it to the other angle, equals 180 degrees. That's one of your definitions. You need to just remember that. Supplementary. Okay? So DOE, the supplementary angle to that would be this one here, because you can see this is just a straight angle. This is 180 degrees right here. It's half circle. So if this is angle DOE, then this must be what you have to add to it to give you the 180 degrees. So the answer is angle AOE, simply because AOE plus DOE gives you the full 180 degrees, because again, this is a straight angle, which by definition is 180. Now, is there anything else? Okay, DOE is here, but notice there's another line going up like this, okay? So let me write it down and we'll talk about it. Also, COD. This angle is also supplementary to it, okay? Because DOE is here, but this is a straight angle right here, okay? So if this angle is added with this angle, COD, this one right here, then you will get the 180 degrees that you need right here, because this is just a straight angle, which we said is always equal to 180 degrees. So it's a little bit tricky. This is DOE, this angle here, and it's saying what are the supplements? This is a supplementary angle because when I add it, I get 180, and this is a supplementary angle because when I add it, I get 180. Okay. So let's also do something else. Name a pair of complementary angles. Name a pair of complementary angles. Okay? Now let me erase this real quick. What does complementary mean? Well, supplementary means you add up to 180 degrees. Complementary means you add up to 90 degrees. We talked about that before. So name a pair of complementary angles. They just have to add up to 90 degrees. Okay? Oh, I forgot to put this on my drawing. Well, if you look at the drawing, you see this is 90 degrees right here. Okay? And the two angles that you pick have to also add up to 90 degrees. Well, if this is 90 degrees, then you know, just by looking at the drawing, and it may not jump out at you right away, that this angle also, this big angle between, BOD, this must be 90 degrees also, because this is a straight line here, okay? And this is a straight angle. So this is 180 degrees, and this is 90 degrees, this part of it here. So this part all the way over here must also be 90 degrees. And since this is 90 degrees and this angle splits it up, then these two angles here have to equal 90 degrees when you add them together. So the two angles that are complementary are angle BOC and angle COD. Now let me walk through that one more time because that's confusing, okay? The only thing I was given in the drawing is that this angle was 90 degrees. Okay, but that doesn't really help me directly because I'm trying to find two angles that add up to 90 degrees, but there's no line here, so I don't have an easy way to find two angles here because there's nothing there. But you use the fact that this is 90 degrees and the fact that this is just a straight line, it's a straight angle, which is always equal. This is always equal to 180 degrees right here because this is just a straight line. It's called a straight angle. So if this is 180 and this is 90, then this part of it, this whole part of it from B down to D here, BOD, has to be 90 degrees. That's why I put this little mark here, meaning that's 90 degrees, okay? And if that's 90 degrees, then this angle plus this angle must equal 90 degrees, so that's what I put. BOC, BOC, COD, COD, they are complements of one another, okay? So let's do something else. Name two pairs of vertical angles. And vertical is abbreviated vert like that. Two pairs of vertical angles. So let me go ahead and take this green part out just so we don't get distracted. This is what was given to us here. Two pairs of vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed anytime you have crisscrossing lines. So all you have to do is find a crisscrossing line. The one that jumps out at me right away is this line crisscrosses with this one. So these are vertical angles, okay? So that's easy enough. So you know that angle AOE and angle COD, AOE and COD, these two angles here, they're vertical angles, but it asks for two pairs. That's the easy one. What else is there? Well, these are vertical angles. This big angle is also vertical with this angle up here. Don't get confused by this line right here. These are the two crisscrossing lines we're looking at. This angle with this one right here, all the way over. So the second answer is angle AOC and angle EOD. AOC and EOD. AOC, this big angle right here, is vertical with EOD. Simply because they're opposite. They crisscross and they're opposite of one another. Okay. Now the final thing we're going to do is we're going to ask a couple of true-false questions. Do complementary, I'm just going to abbreviate it like that, is a complementary angle must be acute? Does a complementary angle must be acute? That's a true or false statement, okay? And what that means, don't forget what complementary means. Complementary means the two angles add up to 90 degrees. So if you just think about it, if this is 90 degrees, and you have an angle here and an angle here, and they have to add up to 90 degrees, then each angle that's a complement of with each other, they have to each be less than 90 degrees, so they have to each be acute. So the answer is true. So the true-false statement is, are complementary angles always acute, or do they must be acute? Okay. The answer is yes, because the definition of complementary means they add up to 90 degrees. So if I have 90 degrees and I split it up into two angles, then each angle must in turn be less than 90 degrees, which means each in turn must be acute, which is less than 90 degrees, okay? Next one is, our supplementary angles must be obtuse. Okay, now you're going to have to draw some pictures to think about this. This is a super important lesson here in geometry and also for future math, is that in order to be able to solve any problem, you're going to have to learn how to draw pictures and figure it out using pictures. So are supplementary angles always obtuse? That's really how it should read. Must is a little confusing. Are they always obtuse? Okay. Well, supplementary by definition means that they have to add to 180 degrees. So this is a straight angle, and if I split it, then I know that this angle and this angle are supplementary with one another because they add up to 180 degrees, right? But I can tell you by looking at this drawing that this angle is obtuse. Yeah, this one is because it's greater than 90 degrees, but this angle right here is not. It is less than 90 degrees. So I've already found a counterexample. I've already found an example of two angles that are supplementary because they add up to 180 degrees, but yet one of the angles is less than 90 degrees, which means it's acute. So this is not always true, okay? This is not always true. Supplementary angles, one of them is obtuse usually, but one of them is acute, okay? And you can see that by drawing a picture. So we've gone over a lot of things in this section. We've gone over complementary angles and supplementary angles and vertical angles and how they relate to each other. The main thing is just get a hang of the terminology, look at the pictures, draw pictures for yourself, take it one step at a time, and it becomes more